the way that perhaps he wanted. We do have a new survey out today from Pew, which is a very respected survey group, comparing the approval of his appointments and the way he's explaining what he will do as president to past presidents, to the last, and similar polls were taken all the way back to George Bush Sr. in 1989, so it goes back a long way. And Trump has the lowest numbers on both of those, around 40% on both. So it does not appear that he's really building his base. He's got a very reliable base, but it doesn't appear to be going beyond it.
Mm-hmm. And Kirsten, there's always Twitter. So let's talk Donald Trump and Twitter. Chuck Jones, the carrier union boss who Trump lashed out at last night, is now receiving death threats after Trump tweeted this, and there it is up there. Do you think that Trump's tweets are knee-jerk reaction to Jones's criticism of the carrier deal, or is it more calculated than that?
Well, couldn't it be both a little bit?
It could be both?
Yeah, I think, well, I mean, I think he's reacting in the moment, but at the same time, I think a lot of what he does is very calculated. And look, he was getting great coverage for this deal that he did, and this person comes along and basically rains on his parade. And he has, in the Political Morning Consult poll, you had 60% of people saying they thought better of Donald Trump after this deal, including about 42% of Democrats. So now along comes somebody and says, well, actually what you said wasn't true. It's not that many people. The fact of the matter is, it's still a lot of people. And Donald Trump, I think another way to handle this might have been to call him up and say, hey, let's try and figure this out and try to get these people's jobs back, right? Yeah. Instead, he attacks him and starts talking about something that he's really never said before, which is blaming jobs going to Mexico on the unions. Yeah. This is a new storyline, because before it was always that it was trade and globalization that was taking the jobs.
That would have been the less reactionary and more diplomatic
yes.
way. Should he be more careful?
Yes.
It's probably a simpler question.
Well, I think he should. But again, Donald Trump got to where he is, such an improbable election and success doing this kind of stuff. Yeah. And so if you're Donald Trump, I think he feels like, I'm going to do it my way.
Yeah. David, what do you want to say?
Yeah, Don, I do think we're seeing a pattern emerge here, and that is that Donald Trump approaches these questions of being presidential and governing from a power perspective, and that is, do I have more power than the other side? Am I the alpha male in this situation? And I'm going to seize upon every situation and basically threaten the people who may oppose me or stand in my way. If you don't do this, I'm going to do that.
But David, it's different when you're knocking the media and you're knocking a big company. But what about an individual like that, essentially punching down?
I don't think he was seen so much punching down, although he did go after this union chief. I thought what we saw tonight in Iowa, very importantly in this rally, after a series of sort of threatening American companies and this union chief, and going after this union chief, tonight he was actually trying to bully China. He went after them right at the beginning, bringing Terry Branstad up. The governor of Iowa is going to be his new ambassador to China. But he rattled off a series of complaints he had about China that ordinarily would have been handled by diplomats and quietly in order to get China to come around, especially on trying to get Chinese help on stopping the crazy North Koreans from blowing up things. And he doesn't think he's had much help from them. But this pattern of constantly using threats, here's what I want you to do. If you don't do it, boom, I'm going to hit you on something. That, I think, is very unlike any president I've seen, is very new, and I think may work for a while, but ultimately it has real problems. It will run into real resistance down the road. I think the Chinese, among others, will not be bullied.
Kirsten, what do you think? Because his supporters seem to like it. I mean, he is an equal opportunity offender. I mean, it doesn't matter, right?
Yeah, I think that he's very aggrieved. This is something that predates him running for president. He sort of always sees himself as being a little bit under attack and undervalued. And I don't know that he thinks it's punching down. I think that he feels like almost he's on the same level. Yeah, it's a counterpunch. And he's attacked individuals. Look, he's attacked reporters by name. I mean, I've been attacked on Twitter, and he's singled out Katie Tour, who's there in the middle of these humongous, from NBC News in front of these, tens of thousands of people, singled her out. I mean, putting her safety in jeopardy. He doesn't seem to understand the power that he has. I really don't think that he really gets it, that he doesn't. Yeah, I think he just thinks it's two people just having a fight.
I think he understands it altogether too well. I think that's the problem.
Really?
The power that he has.
The power that he has, especially when people's safety, because now this union chief is saying that he's getting death threats. Kirsten mentioned Katie Tur and others, and when he attacks someone, reporters, and not just me, anyone, any reporter, most times they don't respond, but people do come after you. David, you think he understands that that is a threat to someone's safety that when he attacks?
Well, I'm not sure he appreciates the safety angle so much, but I do think he wants to draw blood. And when he goes after Boeing, as he did over these Air Force One costs, he's scoring some points with people who want to cut government costs, but mostly he's trying to bully Boeing. And by the way, they're apparently are talking to him now. But the bigger issue is how he goes after these individual companies. Say, if you now leave, I'm going to give you these tax cuts, I'm going to deregulate and all the rest. And if you leave anyway, well, I'm going to slap a 35% tariff on you. If you're a Ford Motor Company, you're not going to be able to bring your cars in here. You're not going to be able to sell them because the price is going to go up 35%. That's a pretty big threat.
Yeah. I want to move on and talk about this. I felt a certain kind of way about it in the beginning, but then after thinking about it, I think I changed my mind. We are learning tonight that Donald Trump is going to stay on as executive producer of Celebrity Apprentice. The New York Times is also reporting that Trump, he's going to turn his business over to his sons, but will keep the stake in his company. And we're obviously in uncharted territory here. The second part we'll talk about turning it over to his sons, but the fact that he's getting royalties from Celebrity Apprentice, a show which he helped make successful, I think the media may be reading too much into that. Ronald Reagan got royalties and residuals from movies and productions he was in. The current president got royalties from books. What's the difference here? Is this a distinction without a difference, Kirsten?
Well, I think when I first heard executive producer, to me, that suggested he was still having some sort of role in the production of the Celebrity Apprentice. If it's just receiving royalties, yes, I agree. It would be the same thing as receiving royalties from a book. So,
but if he's producing and shooting,
but if he was actually involved in it, then I would say no. And that he was hired to do a job, one job. He's the president of the United States, and that's what he needs to be spending his time on.
Yeah, David, what do you say?
Well, I think I think the amount of money is minimal and is de minimis. That's not worth talking about. I do think there's a question of taste. Do you really want to be connected as president of the United States with a Celebrity Apprentice all the way through your presidency? I would think you'd move on. But I think the big question, the big enchilada, is going to be December 15th when he comes out and reveals what is he really doing about his company. That's where the real conflicts are.
And of course there's a conflict of interest with NBC and NBC News. NBC, which has The Apprentice, and then NBC News, who will be covering Donald Trump throughout his presidency. Let's talk about his sons, though. Do you think that he said he's going to keep a stake in the company, his sons are going to run it. Do you think that that's enough?
No.
No?
No, it's not. I mean, the example that I've before is that imagine if Chelsea Clinton was running the Clinton Foundation and was working on the transition team, which is essentially what's happening right now with his children, and then Hillary was like, oh, and then I'm just going to hand it off as president to Chelsea, and she's going to run this with Bill Clinton, and people would be hysterical, their heads would be exploding, right? This was, Donald Trump criticized this when she was Secretary of State. What if she was president? And the New York Times, who's liberal, they said if she won, that they should give up all operational control, Bill and Chelsea. So I just don't understand how anybody would accept this.
Yeah. Well, but I also hear, David, the surrogates defending it using the opposite argument of what Kirsten said. We should give him a chance. Everybody should give him a chance, the same chance that they would give Hillary Clinton or gave Hillary Clinton. But Hillary Clinton is not. She's not the president-elect, so she had no chance. So that sort of defending it that way doesn't make sense.
What I don't even understand what that means in this context. Listen. He's already got foreign diplomats are going to his hotel in Washington to throw parties, and they're under some pressure. They feel under pressure that when visiting heads of state or government come in here, to Washington, they shouldn't go stay in Blair House, which they traditionally do. They should maybe go over and stay in his hotel. And his people are going to be out looking for hotel opportunities in other countries. We've just heard about Taiwan and that sort of thing. That is pay to play.
Yeah.
That is fundamentally what we mean by pay to play. You pay your dues. You put something into my kitty, and by the way, then I will have an audience with you, and I'll consider something. That's what potentates did in the centuries gone by. So I think that's fundamental, and I do think there are going to be constitutional questions. If he can separate himself out, I think we ought to give him a fair chance. We ought to give him time to say, here's what I'm going to do, and let's not prejudge it totally.
Right.
Let's see where he comes out. If he comes out and really separates out, we ought to praise him for it.
I'm out of time. Thank you, Dave.